Hello, welcome to my channel. How's everybody doing today? I am going to be binding two books, two different sizes that I made last night. This is our first pattern that we're gonna do. When I saw this fabric, I was like, wow, I gotta have this. I have other projects that I'm working on with some fabric artists, as I like to call them, but I know probably the more common name is just a seamstress, but I think it's a little bit more than that. And I'm hoping that I can get some fun things made out of this textile pretty soon. I'm actually going to be mailing some out this weekend. So what you just saw me doing was I made the covers last night. They sat under weight all night, which is something I usually do. It doesn't really take that long for the glue to dry, but I like for the book to flatten out. And after it sits under weight and I'm ready to bind, I do like to make sure the creases are in, because that actually helps me when I'm measuring where I need to put the holes. I like to act as if the book is opening, just to get a better idea of how it's gonna look once the holes and binding are done. The other pattern we have is this lovely Japanese scene. We have ninjas, we have homes, we have them jumping, we have the mountains, the moon, the sun, stars. We have everything. I think it's just gorgeous. And this one is being made for one of my very special friends, and they have no idea what fabric it is, so can't wait to show it to them. Same thing here, just finding those creases. And this is actually a new cover style that I've been doing more and more, where you could see that there is a double bend there. And what that allows is for the cover to actually stay open on its own, which is not how I had started out, not what I had been doing for the last 2 years. And I know that people love the journal. They never complained about it, but sometimes when I would see pictures of it, and of course I'm making it, so I know that it wasn't doing that, but when I would see pictures of it, people would have to kind of hold open the journal. And I'm sure that if you're not using it for just like a quick jot down, which is not what I really wanted it to be used for, I wanted it to be used for, you know, creating charts, or actually writing in it, or scrapbooking, or watercoloring, to have to find a weight to put on it to hold it open. I'm sure people were fine with it because that's the only way that they could get the product. But I think once I've been putting this out, they've been very excited about it, and I'm excited about it too. I think it brings so much more function to the beauty of the product. And yeah, I hope more people will be able to see that this is now available. So this particular one that I'm working on right now is not for anyone. I think it's going to be for me. I just love the fabric so much, and it is already on my website for purchase, or for me to make a notebook for you. But sometimes it's really helpful for people to see it done. You can imagine everything you want when you see a fabric posted online, but it's a whole nother confirmation once you see it, how it would look if you decided to go with it. And I'm just like, this is one of those fabrics, which is a lot. Like, I have a lot of favorites, but this is definitely my most recent favorite. I'm like, this is everything. I've got to make something out of this. So what you see me doing now is punching through the holes that I lined up. So I take my ruler and measure. It's every inch, but I have to eyeball so that the first hole and the bottom hole both seem to be the same distance from the edge. And I use my awl to create indications. Then I'm using my hole punch to punch the holes. Then from the first cover, I line up the back cover the same way it would be when it's bound. Use my awl again, since there's now holes in the front one, just make indications through that. I see them here, I use my awl, push through, and then it just creates indents. I'm not sure that you can really see it that well, but there are indents here that make it easy for me to follow. So that way, this side, when I punch the holes, it lines up. I may have spoken about it before, but I know that I've seen other videos where it's done more professionally, or in a big binding studio, where they're certainly not doing this cover by cover. They are putting it all together in one shot. They have a hand tool. I'm not even sure what it's called right now, but it's something where they clamp it all together, both covers and the paper, and they just kind of drill into it manually, so the punch goes right through everything at one time. My only thought and concern about it, I guess, is like when I'm punching through this, which could be totally different from that other tool, and it probably is, whichever way I'm punching is the way that the hole falls through. So if I had something that I was manually cranking to go down, these holes might be protruding out when I would rather them be protruding in, so that the raw part is on the inside and no one's gonna see that. So I just need to look into it. I've definitely seen it done and it looked perfect as far as I can remember. So I'm gonna see about that, because I've been hand clamping for over 2 years now, and that's what the glove is for, to protect my hand and so it doesn't hurt. But if there's a better way, I probably need to be looking into it soon. Okay, so this is basically complete. I'm not gonna thread yet. I'm gonna move on to the next one and get those holes done. Okay. So typically, like this fabric, there's really no front and back visually, but in every journal I do stamp the name, which I do kind of consider the back when it comes to a directional fabric. And a directional fabric is when it reads a certain way. You have to be looking at it in a certain angle, certain direction for the image to make sense. In cases like these, it matters how I apply the fabric. So when you look at it this way, it's readable, and when you flip it over, it's also readable. I've definitely made the mistake where the way that I put the hinge ends up making this side upside down, and I had to learn over time, like the hinge would have been over here. So I had to learn over time how to position my hinges when I'm putting the covers together. So since this is kind of going to be the front in a way, I start with this side when I'm making the first holes. And again, I have the hinges in to help me visually see how it's going to look when the book is in use, when it's being opened. So I just want it to visually look even. And over time, I used to have to measure, I used to have to line this up really well with a ruler. But over time, those are things that you learn. You can kind of eyeball. So the alignment of the hinge and the spacing is all eyeballed. But when it comes to making the holes, that needs to be precise and as exact as possible. And because these are holes, even if for some reason, you see how we might be a little bit hard to see here, but see how they look pretty even, both from each corner and also in space and from this edge. Even if for some reason these holes that I'm making on the back cover don't exactly line up, the fact that they're holes, the thread is going to kind of straighten it out anyway, because there's room for the tension to do that. See, all of this that I'm doing now would be eliminated with that other tool. I would probably save a ton of time, especially when it comes to larger orders. So in case you were not aware, I absolutely do wholesale or bulk orders. The largest order I've done, I think, is about between, well, actually, I think the largest order I've done is about 50, which was a little tough, but batching is everything in that case. I do certain parts each day. I will one day prepare the fabric, if it's that many. The next day I will cut the covers down, get all those cut out, get the cardstock cut out. Next day I might cut the paper down. Next day I might glue the covers. Next day I am creating the holes in the spines. Next day creating the holes in the paper and then starting to bind. So for large orders, I always like to say up to 3 weeks, and I say 3 weeks because I don't stock a lot of fabric right now in my studio. I think I might be trying to change that at some point this year, but basically a week of that time could be waiting on the fabric to come. And even if I had it, I may not be having that much. So we have that, and then we have like a batching process each day, which could take up to, you know, maybe 4 or 5 days. And then I can't punch like this that much without taking a break on my hands. So, but I do certainly offer it. I've done it for stores. I have a store that I regularly make journals for, and they send me their own fabric. I've gotten contacted to send books and journals for pop-ups for bookstores that are coming up, or online shops or workshops where people would love to have a journal, and it's like a little gift to them from the host. Anything really, it doesn't matter to me what it's for. And people do send me their own fabric all the time. Sometimes they have a certain look or certain style or collection that they're going for, and I make them and I send it back. So I am definitely open to that. You can start with emailing me, which is always best if there's going to be a little bit of back and forth with questions or letting me know what to expect. It's just better for record keeping. I am on Instagram, of course, and we can always start the conversation there, but I love to turn things into email after a while, or just to confirm final details. And yeah, I always say, give me, you know, if you reach out to me like 3 weeks before you need it, that's perfect. That is being considerate of my capabilities, which I know people don't always know what all goes into it, but if you're watching this, it's being considerate of all the steps, and it's giving all the steps time to go through their process in the best way possible, because we do have to stop and go sometimes depending on what part of the process I'm in, which I all hope to improve anyway. But so yeah, this is, like I said, these particular ones are not for anyone in particular. This one I think is just going to be something to showcase and put on the website, show people a new pattern that I've used on a journal. The other one is for a friend, but I am going to be working on a new order that's about, I think, 36 books. It's all small size journals, and they sent me their fabrics. They're so lovely. I can't wait to get started on that. Yeah, I mean, I have my store. I have a ton of fabrics on there. I do update the selection every month and a half, because fabrics do go away, they sell out. So that's another thing that I love about what I do, though, is that it just makes it that much more exclusive. Like, it's aside from the store that I do work with, which I think they order basically twice a year at this point, and they do tend to send some of the same fabrics. They do switch it up sometimes, but aside from that, literally there is no more than 10 to 12 of a book handmade by me in that pattern choice, in that journal size. It is so exclusive and small batch and like limited edition, which I just absolutely love. I just think it brings it just turns up the specialness in it so much more. So, and because fabrics do sell out, unfortunately, or they become unavailable, it forces me to offer different ones, of course, to keep the website full and popping of fun fabrics. When I first started, I was going like full on color, what was eye-catchy. Then over time, I started to focus on a little bit more of the Japanese fabrics, because I wanted to make sure I was honoring not only the binding style that originated from Asia, but also bring in gorgeous fabrics from those designs. I mean, look at these. Both of these are considered Japanese fabrics. They are beautiful, and they're also not overwhelming. Like, even though we have these images, they could have a big story to them, but they're still just so visually pleasing. Whereas some of the other colorful fabrics that I've worked with, it's like you really need to just like that color. That has to be your style for you to want it. But something like this, I almost feel like it really is for anybody, which I always want to encourage and stand for. So I think this year or lately, I've been trying to do make a really good effort to source a lot of Japanese fabrics. Like, I've just started to update the website a little bit more. The problem is too that they sell out pretty quickly, so, but we can see why, right? But I do want to pay respect overall, and so I'm trying to do both. I have put up plain colors and no one goes for them. Like, I got an order for that one time. It was this really pretty light orange color, and I love the plain minimal colors, but I think people are just not really seeing it or catching it that well. Maybe because I'm not doing it enough too. So I want to start getting back into that. Like, I want to get back into the range of options. I really want my brand to be for everyone. For everyone to be able to find something in their next journal. And people have asked, you know, can you do lined? Can you do dot? As of now, no. My signature is the blank paper. When we first started using paper, all those thousands of years ago, it was blank paper, and I think that just brings more, I don't know if the word is respect, but it's about the original form too, you know. And I think this thread is a little bit too thin, or too short, I mean, so gonna have to see if all right. Okay, so if I pull out there, all right, so what I'm trying to do now is loosen it all the way through. Talking too much, huh? And mismeasured. Usually it's a 5 count in length to get me the right amount of work. I might have to start all over. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe. Okay. We're just making it. Wow. Okay. All right, we did it. So from here, my last step is to just add a little bit of glue. I think this is kind of like a, maybe it's turned into kind of a placebo thing for me, where I just feel like adding in some glue into the holes helps keep it in place, because the truth is these are not made for rough use. It's really made for being in the home, at least the larger ones. You know, something that can stay in the house, something that you can leave on the desk or leave in a certain room where you always like to journal. Because the more use over time, it might be a little bit too rough for the binding. But the small ones are great for on the go, and the medium ones are too. But I like to add a little glue in to help keep the binding in place. The best we can. Just for a little bit more reinforcement. And what I do like about the hemp cord of this size too is that it has a lot of tension, so I can really pull on it to really tighten all these areas throughout the process. And then this is kind of the final attempt to keep it all together. Okay, so this one is done. This is considered our back. Considered the front. Okay. And this one we already bound earlier, and just going to add a little glue. This does dry clear, so even though it does dry clear, you have to be neat with this part still. I don't want to have too much excess of anything hanging over, or I don't think you can see, but I'm just on the other side putting in a little over there. Okay. And that one is done as well. So lately I've been kind of seeing how I feel with leaving a little bit of extra. I'm not sure if you can see that there, but there's like a little bit of the string sticking out. This is our final knot here. This is where it loops back through that second time to finish it off. I think with some of them, it looks fine to leave it like that. Some of them, I end up tucking it in. I don't have a rhyme or reason to it right now. When I first started out, they all used to be tucked. Then I saw someone doing it this way, and I was like, oh, that looks kind of cool. But I don't know. So these are all set. So you've just watched me create the holes, measure the holes, punch the holes, get it all lined up. You watch me bind a size large and a size medium today. I have been trying to do the double hinge on the small notebooks, but it hasn't been really working out that well. I think they're just too small. Otherwise, it's going to turn into something probably almost this long, but just thinner. So I'm not really opposed to it, but I have a large stock of the predetermined size of the small. So there's not really a whole lot that I can do in terms of making changes, but as of now, The small does not have the double bend feature. And as you can see, it does stay open on its own, which is so amazing, and I'm so glad I was able to figure it out. It took me a while in my head to like how am I gonna do that? But so the mediums and larges are starting to go out with new orders with this new cover feature, and I think everyone's gonna love it, and I think you will too. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.